The screen of my living room TV flickered to life on its own. At first, I thought it was just another glitch, but then I realized my next-door neighbor had accidentally cast his screen onto my smart TV instead of his own. What came up made me freeze. An intimate video, him and a woman, bodies tangled together, playing out in silent, vivid detail. Just another night in the city, I thought, letting out a sigh at the raw, reckless energy of youth. My hand was already reaching for the remote to kill the feed when my brain buzzed. A sharp, static jolt that made me blink. The woman in the video shifted, and for a split second, I saw it. A faint, uniquely shaped birthmark on the small of her back. It was identical to my wife's. Then the video vanished. I sat there for a few moments, my heart pounding, fumbling with my own Bluetooth settings until I finally connected to the esports championship stream I'd meant to watch in the first place. The match was already in its final, frantic moments, but my interest had completely evaporated. Half an hour later, I heard the sound of a shower running in the apartment next door. My mind was a chaotic mess. No matter how I tried, I couldn't shake the image of that familiar mark. Almost without thinking, I unlocked my phone and opened iMessage. At the top, pinned like always, was Julia's chat, my wife. Her last message was a live photo she'd sent just to check in. "Ethan, I miss you so much. I'll be back from the conference tomorrow night. Make sure you get some sleep after the stream ends tonight." The picture showed her with a few colleagues in a hotel conference room, smiling around a table cluttered with laptops and notepads. I shook my head, annoyed at myself for even letting suspicion take root. I typed back a quick reply, telling her to take care of herself, then closed the app. The next day was Saturday. I slept in late, so late that when I finally dragged myself out of bed, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Julia was already home. I blinked in surprise. "You're back early." She walked over holding a gift box stamped with the logo of my favorite esports team. Smiling warmly, she said, "Did you forget? Today's our 5th wedding anniversary. I booked a table at our place. I wanted to get back early to have dinner with you." The conference had been in Portland. A solid 3-hour drive without traffic. The thought that she'd pushed through all that just to make it home for our anniversary softened the knot in my chest. "You should have called," I said. "I would have driven down to get you. You must be exhausted." Julia dropped her luggage by the couch and leaned in, brushing her cheek against mine. She kissed me quick and firm before pulling a change of clothes from her bag. I know. You're the best husband," she said, her voice muffled as she headed for the bathroom. "Go on, see if you like your present. It's one of a kind." I opened the box. Inside was a limited edition team jersey I'd been eyeing for months. My chest loosened a little. I nodded to myself and carefully placed it in the glass front cabinet where I kept my collection. The shelves were already full of gifts she'd given me over the years. 10 years together, 5 dating, 5 married. Her love, her care, had always been the one unquestionable fact of my life. Just then, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, my neighbor stood there in a basketball jersey. He looked nothing like the man I'd seen on screen the night before, stripped of all that raw, carnal energy. His eyes flicked to mine and he got straight to the point. "Hey, sorry to bother you. I'm the guy next door. My shirt fell on your balcony. Mind if I grab it?" I nodded and stepped aside. My eyes followed him as he walked over to the railing, but when he picked up his shirt, I froze. It was the same shirt I'd seen in the video. He didn't notice my reaction. "My girlfriend was over last night watching the game with me," he explained casually. "Things got a little messy, and it must have fallen over." After thanking me, he handed me a small, elegant box. "For the trouble. Some artisanal chocolates from Portland." I accepted it without a word, shut the door, and walked back to the living room. My gaze fell on the brand new limited edition jersey sitting in my display cabinet. What a coincidence. Supposedly one of a kind. And yet, my neighbor just happened to have the exact same one. I sat in silence for a long moment before picking up Julia's phone from the coffee table. My fingers hesitated only briefly before typing in my birthday. Password incorrect. A sour taste filled my mouth. I tried hers. This time it unlocked. Our birthdays as passcodes had always been our thing. a little promise between us. When had she quietly changed it? I tapped iMessage. I was still pinned at the top. Her home screen was still a picture of me. I scrolled through her apps, Instagram, Facebook. Everything looked normal. Relief began to creep in, until I noticed a tiny red notification badge. It was on an app I'd installed for her months ago, one that automatically logs traffic violations from city cameras. I opened it. My finger moved on its own. The list of violations popped up, all from the past month. Every single one was from Portland, the same city where she was supposedly attending her conference yesterday. My throat tightened, and then I saw the violation photos. One showed Julia in the driver's seat, leaning over to kiss the man beside her. His face, caught in grainy municipal clarity, belonged to none other than my neighbor, Caleb Vance. My fingertips went numb. My palms broke out in sweat. I wiped them on my jeans, scrolling further, but there were no violations dated before last month, which made sense. Caleb had only moved in at the beginning of the month. My eyes fell on the box of artisanal chocolates resting on the table. Everything suddenly clicked with brutal clarity. I remembered now, every time Julia went on a business trip, she always brought me back a specialty from wherever she'd gone. But this time, her lover had gotten impatient. He wanted to mark his territory. Just as I was about to set the phone down, a new message popped up on the screen from her best friend. "You owe me big time. It took me forever to Photoshop you into those meeting pictures. And those 2 limited edition jerseys. Don't even ask what I had to pull to get them. I had to clench my fists tight just to stop my hands from shaking. The business trip was a lie. All of it. Last night, she'd been right next door, in Caleb's arms. Even the anniversary gift she'd prepared for me, he had one too. Kept it perfectly fair, didn't she?" Taking a deep breath, I snapped pictures of the messages, the photos, everything with my own phone. Then I silenced hers and placed it back exactly where I'd found it. A few minutes later, Julia came out of the bathroom, towel in her hands, drying her hair. "Ethan, who was at the door?" I forced my face into neutrality, keeping my tone casual. "The neighbor. He mentioned he just moved here from Portland. Do you know him?" Her hands froze for the briefest fraction of a second before she continued toweling, her voice steady. "How would I know him? We have a new neighbor." Her delivery was flawless. Natural. Not a single crack in the facade. I pushed the box of chocolates toward her. "You must have forgotten to pick these up on your trip. The neighbor gave them to me. Want one?" Her eyes flickered to the box. Her brow furrowed for just a heartbeat, but her voice was steady. "I was in such a rush to get back. It slipped my mind. And no, I don't want any. I'm not eating. Something another man gave you." I looked up and locked eyes with her. "How do you know the neighbor was a man?" The air in the room went still. We stared at each other. For a moment, a flash of panic crossed her face, but just as quickly it was gone. "I guess it's either a man or a woman, right?" she said smoothly, feigning a pout. "Besides, if it was a woman, why would she be giving you chocolates with just a few words?" A deflection. Clean, practiced. I looked down, hiding the cold sneer tugging at my lips. "I was just kidding." Julia let out a tiny, almost imperceptible sigh of relief. She playfully punched my arm. "Ethan, you're getting mean in your old age." I forced a weak smile and stood. "I'm going to change. We can head out after." Dinner passed in silence. On the way to the movie, her phone rang. I glanced at it just enough to catch the caller ID, Caleb Redhart. She answered quickly. After a moment, she leaned over, unbuckled my seatbelt, her tone dripping with apology. "Ethan, something's come up at work. It's an emergency. I have to go in for a few hours." "Okay," I said calmly, just telling her. "Drive safe," I told her. Julia dropped me off at an intersection and sped away. I stood there, watching her car vanish into the stream of traffic, my heart sinking as heavy clouds loomed overhead. Then a clap of thunder cracked through the sky, and fat raindrops began to fall, striking my face and tracing paths down my cheeks like tears. She must have forgotten this intersection was a nightmare for traffic, and nearly impossible to get an Uber from during rush hour. So I walked. The rain soaked through my clothes as I stumbled forward, drifting in a daze until I finally managed to flag down a cab and get home. Between staying up late for the stream last night and the emotional wreckage of the day, my body just gave up. I collapsed into bed, falling into a feverish sleep. Somewhere in the haze, I felt Julia's soft, worried voice brushing against me. "Ethan, are you feeling any better? Are you in pain?" Her cool palm pressed against my burning forehead. She gave me fever reducers, changed my sweat-drenched shirt, and placed a cool cloth over my head. When I finally opened my eyes, her face was etched with genuine concern. A complicated storm of emotions churned inside me. I turned my head away, swallowing the bitterness in my throat. "Better," I mumbled. "Why are you back?" She stroked my hair, a gesture so familiar it ached. "You're sick. How could I possibly stay at work?" I told them I had to go and came right home to take care of you. As she spoke, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then immediately hit decline. "Sounds like someone's trying to reach you. Shouldn't you get that? You're the most important thing, Ethan. Everything else can wait." She brushed it off, bringing over a steaming bowl of chicken noodle soup. She blew gently on a spoonful, testing it against her lips, careful I wouldn't burn myself. "Here, Ethan, eat something. You need to take your medicine after. Then you can sleep some more." I barely managed a few sips before her phone lit up again, buzzing insistently on the nightstand. This time she picked it up. Her eyes scanned the screen. Her whole body stiffened. She shot to her feet, knocking the spoon from my hand. Hot soup splashed onto my skin, and I hissed in pain, but she didn't even notice. "Ethan," she said tightly, urgency in her tone. "My assistant says there's a client who's an absolute disaster. They need me to go in and handle it. I have to go just for a little while. Okay? When I'm sick, I get needy, irrational." That's what she always said. I grabbed her sleeve weakly. "Can't someone else go? I want you to stay with me." She tucked the covers around me, gently prying my fingers away. "Ethan, be good. Take your medicine and get some sleep. I'll be back before you know it." She even placed a few candies on the nightstand, like she used to when I was a kid and hated swallowing pills. She reminded me again to take the medicine. Then, on her way out, she grabbed antiseptic wipes and bandages from the first aid kit. The click of the front door closing plunged the room into near darkness. I pushed myself up and opened the security app on my phone. Earlier, when I got home, I'd installed a tiny hidden camera by the front door. The live feed loaded. There she was, Julia, stepping out of our apartment. The door next to ours opened, and Caleb stood there, shirtless, holding out his hand. Julia took it, studying a cut on his finger with tender care before wrapping her arms around his neck. She tilted her head up, said something I couldn't hear. Then he pulled her into him and kissed her. Deep, possessive. They clung to each other by the door, lost in the moment. After a long minute, Caleb swept her off her feet and carried her inside his apartment. I stared at the screen, my chest constricting like it was being crushed in a vice. Just then, my phone buzzed. A notification from the residence group chat. A mass alert. An idea struck me. I got dressed and went downstairs. 5 minutes later, the piercing alarm of a building-wide fire drill echoed through the complex. I stood in the open plaza on the ground floor, phone raised, recording. It didn't take long. Caleb burst out of the entrance, carrying a barely clothed Julia in his arms. When she saw me, she screamed. She clutched at the scrap of fabric covering her chest, trying desperately to hide in his embrace. A moment later, she seemed to realize the weight of the situation and shoved him away. "Ethan, listen to me." I ignored her. My gaze stayed locked on the man still holding her. "Caleb, sleeping with another man's wife. Is it as thrilling as you hoped?" Caleb said nothing. Julia jumped in, her brow furrowed as she defended him. "Ethan, you're misunderstanding." I finally looked at her, my expression flat as I lowered my phone. "Julia, don't bother lying anymore. Let's get a divorce." By now, a crowd of neighbors had gathered, drawn by the alarm and the commotion. Julia's face went stiff. "Ethan, don't joke like that. Come home with me right now and I'll explain everything." She grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away. That's when I saw it. The mess of her hair, and beneath it, the dark, angry love bites blooming across her collarbone. A cloying, unfamiliar scent hung around her. My stomach twisted in nausea. I jerked my arm free, fighting the urge to scream, to demand answers. I walked past her, back inside the building. When I got to our apartment, I started pulling clothes from the closet, shoving them into a suitcase. Julia stormed in after me, rage boiling over. She kicked the suitcase, sending it spilling across the floor. A small carved jade pendant, a charm she'd given me years ago to calm my nerves, skittered across the tiles and shattered. For a moment, I saw her at 18, after 6 months volunteering at a Buddhist retreat. She'd given it to me like a sacred treasure, her eyes so sincere as she told me to keep it safe. I'd worn it for 10 years straight, never once taking it off. Now, at 28, she stood before me screaming, "What do you think you're doing? How could you do this to me? Caleb was just being a good neighbor, helping me downstairs. Why did you do this to me?" The question should have been mine. The rage and confusion in my chest threatened to rip me apart. I shoved her hand away, my voice breaking. "Because, Julia, you're filthy." The words sliced through the room. Her anger drained, her face turning ghastly pale. Before she could recover, Caleb stepped forward, trying to play the role of the wronged man. "Ethan, how can you talk to her like that? Julia is my mentor. She was my TA in college. We were just talking about my grad school application. What's wrong with that? You can't insult us like this." He thought I was weak, just a pathetic husband he could walk all over. Every move he'd made, the screen casting, the shirt on my balcony, the flaunting, had been deliberate. I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him into his apartment. I pointed at the lingerie on the floor, the open box of condoms on the nightstand. My phone screen was still recording. "If I remember right, you just got into grad school, didn't you? Does your faculty advisor know this is how you network? What do you think they'll do when they find out you're a homewrecker? You think they'll let you stay in the program?" The smug look drained from his face, replaced by raw panic. His eyes widened, terror mixing with hate. "Ethan, you're a real bastard," he spat. "I'm still a student. You'd ruin my entire future over this." "Over this?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Scared now? Did you think about that when you were screwing my wife?" Without thinking, I swung. My fist connected squarely with his jaw. Seeing me lash out, Julia rushed forward, shoving me back. She dropped to Caleb's side, checking his face with agonizing tenderness. Her choice was clear. "Ethan, that's enough. He's just a kid, a college student. If you're angry, take it out on me. Leave him alone." I stared at her in disbelief. Even now, she was protecting him. Her shove sent me stumbling back, my weakened body slamming into the edge of a bookcase. I hit the bookcase hard. The next second, something warm and wet trickled down from my hairline. Julia froze, her eyes widening in horror. I raised a hand to my forehead and pulled it back, covered in blood. The world tilted. My vision swam. My body went limp, and I fell backward into darkness. "Ethan!" As I blacked out, I thought I heard Julia scream my name, but the hand I imagined would catch me never came. The next time I opened my eyes, I was staring at a white acoustic tile ceiling. I was in a hospital bed with N4 dripping into my arm. A nurse came over to my bedside. "You have a phobia of blood, so you fainted. Your head is fine, just a small cut," she explained calmly. "The most important thing is to rest and take care of yourself." I nodded. She was right. Nothing was more important than my health. "Ethan, you're finally awake." My best friend Leo walked in holding a payment receipt. He saw me looking around and answered my unspoken question. "Julia's not here." Just then, the phone on my bedside table lit up. A series of texts from Julia popped onto the screen. "Ethan, did the bleeding stop? I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you. I forgot about your hemophobia. As soon as I'm done here, I'll come find you so we can talk." "Okay." I gripped the phone. a sharp twisting pain in my chest. Leo's voice was a low grumble of condemnation beside me. I was blind. I really thought she was the one, that she truly loved you. You guys were high school sweethearts. 10 years, and she does this to you. He was right. She had loved me so much, and she knew better than anyone how deep the wound of betrayal would cut. My mind drifted back. I was 18, living through the darkest days of my life. The plan had been to go on a trip with Julia after graduation. But one day I came home to find my mother lying in a pool of blood, lifeless. She had discovered my father had another family, a whole other life in a different building in the same apartment complex. He had a son with his mistress, a boy my age. My mother, who had lived for 18 years in the bubble of what she thought was a happy marriage, had been shattered. The shock was too much. She put on the white dress my father had given her and ended her life. Witnessing my mother's death became my deepest trauma. I developed a crippling phobia of blood and severe anxiety. It was Julia who sat with me through countless nights plagued by nightmares. She even became a psychologist, dedicating her life to helping me heal. When her parents and everyone else told her I was broken, that she should leave me, she chose me without hesitation. "Don't be afraid, Ethan," she'd whispered. "I'll always be with you. I'll always love you." The more I remembered every detail of her love, the more it hurt. I hadn't shed a single tear since I discovered her affair. But now, the delayed realization hit me like a physical blow. The person who had pulled me out of the abyss had, with her own hands, pushed me right back in. A suffocating pain seized my chest, making it hard to breathe. I pulled the blanket over my head, muffling the sound of my ragged, silent sobs. After the 4-drip was finished, I checked myself out of the hospital. In the lobby, I ran right into Julia and Caleb. "Ethan, are you okay? I was just about to come find you." Julia started walking toward me, but the cold, indifferent look in my eyes stopped her. She stood frozen, her voice dropping to a softer, pleading tone. "Ethan, can I take you home, please? You have nightmares when you sleep alone. I'll worry if I'm not there." Her concern looked so real, so genuine. But my heart was already a frozen block of ice. "I've already emailed you the divorce papers. Make sure you sign them." Seeing that I was about to walk away, she called out anxiously and started to follow. "Ethan, Julia, my nose is bleeding again," Caleb whined from behind her. "It really hurts." Her steps faltered. In that moment of hesitation, I got into Leo's waiting car and we drove away. I moved in with Leo temporarily. He joked that he could finally drag me out to hang out with our friends again. For years, my world had revolved around Julia. My life so dependent on hers that I'd neglected everyone else. I spent the next few days resting. Julia, meanwhile, refused to sign the divorce papers. She claimed that despite her mistake, she was still deeply in love with me. The thought was so laughable it made me sick. I hired a lawyer, a friend of Leo's named Ava Chun, to file for divorce. My aunt, who lives in Europe, was heartbroken when she heard the news. I told her not to worry, that I'd come visit her as soon as everything was settled. One afternoon, I was meeting with Ava in a coffee shop to go over the details. Suddenly, a cup of hot coffee flew through the air and splashed all over her. I quickly called a waiter to help her to the restroom. When I turned around, Julia was standing there, arms crossed, her face a mask of fury. "Ethan, who is this woman? We're not even divorced yet." I looked at her, my voice cold. "She's my divorce lawyer, Julia. I'd appreciate it if you showed some respect." But she wasn't listening. Her eyes fell on the divorce agreement on the table and she snapped. "I don't care who she is. No one is going to make us get a divorce." With that, she snatched the papers, ripped them to shreds, and threw them into a nearby trash can. I had no energy to argue with her. "If you don't sign, I'll just proceed with the court filing. It will be finalized in a month. It's better for both of us this way." Her eyes instantly turned red. "What did you say? Finalized?" she asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. "We've been together for 10 years. You can just say it's over like that, Ethan? Do you have any idea how much that hurts me?" Ava returned from the restroom just in time to hear Julia's last words. She let out a sharp, cutting laugh. Ms. Ross, before you start pointing fingers, maybe you should take a look at yourself. Let's not forget, you're the one at fault in this marriage. Julia fell silent for a moment, shooting Ava a venomous glare before turning back to me. Ethan, this is between us. Why are you letting an outsider dictate our lives? Let's go home and talk about this. I ignored her and stood up, addressing Ava. Ava, thank you. I'll get the documents you need. I'll be in touch. As we left the coffee shop, Julia followed, blocking my car door. Ethan, it was nothing with Caleb. It was just a fling. I was confused. He manipulated me. You're the one I love. I don't want to lose you. Her hand on the car door was shaking uncontrollably. She seemed to have lost all sense of public decorum. Ethan, please, can we not get a divorce? In mid-sentence, she suddenly bent over, gagging violently. The next second, she broke out in a cold sweat, clutching her stomach. Without a second thought, I helped her into the car and rushed her to the nearest hospital. Half an hour later, a doctor came out with a chart. Congratulations, Mr. Cole. Your wife is 2 months pregnant. The news hit me like a physical blow. I was stunned into silence. Julia, on the other hand, took the report, her eyes lighting up with a flicker of manic joy. She clung to it like a life raft. Ethan, this is wonderful. We're having a baby? She exclaimed, her mind already racing ahead, painting a picture of our future. It was as if our conversation about divorce had never happened. Ethan, we can't get a divorce now, right? You wouldn't want our child to be born into a broken home, would you? Julia took my hand and placed it on her still flat stomach, her eyes shining with maternal love. The words "I don't want this baby" weighed like lead on my tongue. After a long moment, I numbly pulled my hand away. Using the excuse of paying the bill, I fled. The suffocating atmosphere of the hospital room. I was smoking a cigarette downstairs when I called Ava to ask about the legalities. She sighed on the other end of the line. In this state, filing for divorce while your spouse is pregnant is complicated. The court can delay proceedings until after the child. The court can delay proceedings until after the child is born. Mr. Cole, you might have to wait. So I was trapped, stuck in this marriage until the child in her belly was born. My thoughts were a tangled mess as I headed back upstairs. As I reached for the doorknob, I heard voices from inside. It was Julia talking to her best friend, who was also a doctor. You have to help me keep this a secret. He can't find out. We can't lose Ethan. This baby is the only way to keep him. Her friend's worried voice carried through the door. But what if he finds out the baby isn't his? Julia, are you sure about this? It's not fair to him. Before she could finish, I kicked the door open. Bang. I stormed into the room, my eyes burning holes into Julia. Julia? I demanded, my voice sharp. Is this baby mine or not? Before she could answer, someone else burst into the room. It was Caleb, panting, out of breath. He saw Julia and his voice came out frantic. Julia, I heard you were pregnant. It's mine, right? Julia's face went dark. No. What are you talking about? How could I be pregnant with your child? Caleb looked stunned at her denial. But you always said you wanted to have my baby. The doctor said you're 2 months along. That's right. When we were. Shut up, Caleb. Julia snapped, her voice raw with panic. You wore a condom. How could I get pregnant if you wore a condom? But Caleb was adamant. The baby is mine. You and Ethan haven't slept together in months. He turned to me, guilt clouding his eyes. I'm sorry, Ethan. I don't want our child to be born without a father. Please, I'm begging you. Don't fight me for this baby. You, of all people, know what it's like to grow up in a broken home. Caleb, shut your mouth. Julia shrieked, her voice a mix of fury and terror. My whole body trembled, but inside, my heart had sunk to a cold, dead place. How laughable. The deepest, most private trauma of my life, a nightmare I could barely speak of, was something she had casually shared with her lover, like gossip over coffee. Before I could say a word, Julia's friend rushed Caleb out of the room. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the frantic pounding of our hearts. It was obvious whose child it was. As the truth settled, a strange sense of relief washed over me. Whatever shred of affection I had left for Julia evaporated, leaving only disappointment. After a long moment, she looked at me, desperation twisting her features. She reached for me, but in her haste, she tugged on her foreline. The sharp pain made her cry out, "Ethan, don't listen to him. The baby is yours." I took several steps back, putting a safe distance between us. I placed the paid medical bill on the nightstand and looked at her, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion. "Julia, I have no interest in raising another man's child. And for the record, baby or not, we are getting a divorce." I turned and walked out, ignoring her desperate pleas. For the next few days, Julia tried to win me back. She sent coffee to my office, flowers, even a brand new limited edition gaming console. She tried reenacting all the sweet gestures she used to do for me. This time, I refused every single gift. A week later, I was coming home from a therapy session when I found Julia's parents waiting outside my new apartment building. Without even a greeting, they launched into a tirade. "Ethan Cole, is this how you treat our daughter?" Her mother shrieked, hands on her hips. "Forcing her to have an abortion, and now you want to divorce her? After everything she's done. For you, you ungrateful bastard." Her father stood beside her, nodding furiously, looking like he wanted to throttle me. Took me a moment to piece it together. Julia had had an abortion, and now they were blaming me. I had no patience for a screaming match. "If you want to know why we're getting a divorce, you should ask your daughter," I said flatly. "And the baby wasn't mine. The abortion has nothing to do with me." At my words, Julia's mother's face turned purple with rage. "What kind of garbage is coming out of your mouth? If it wasn't yours, whose was it? You're not only a coward who won't take responsibility, but now you're slandering my daughter's name." I let out a cold laugh. "You think I'm talking garbage? Was what your daughter did so honorable?" Her father lunged forward, grabbing me by the collar. "You son of a... My daughter went through a pregnancy for you. Everyone, come and see. How can a person be so heartless?" Their shouting attracted a small crowd of neighbors, murmuring and shooting me judgmental looks. "That young man is going to get what's coming to him," someone muttered. "Forcing his wife to have an abortion and then divorcing her. People like that should be exposed online." I scanned the crowd, my voice sharp and clear. "If your wife was pregnant with another man's child, would you stay with her?" Their expressions shifted. An awkward silence fell over the group. Seeing the tide turn, Julia's mother tried to recover. "Don't listen to his lies. And don't you have any responsibility in this, Ethan? So what if she made one mistake? You can't forgive her? Don't you forget. If it weren't for our Julia, you'd probably be dead by now." Her twisted logic was so absurd, I almost laughed. Just then, a taxi pulled up. Julia stepped out, wrapped in a heavy coat and scarf. She whispered something quietly to her parents, who gave me one last hateful glare before leaving. Julia, her face pale and drawn, bent down and picked up the medical file I had dropped during the scuffle. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice carried that familiar note of concern. "Ethan, have you been having nightmares again? I got rid of the baby. Can you come home now? I'll make you that calming soup you like. It'll help you sleep better." A hysterical laugh bubbled up inside me. "Julia, don't get the wrong idea. I was just at a routine follow-up. Since I've been away from you, and your boyfriend, I've been sleeping better than I have in years." A look of profound grief crossed her face. Her hand holding the file froze. She searched my face, desperate for a lie, a hint that I didn't mean it. When she found none, her composure finally shattered. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It's me. I'm the one who needs you. I can't live without you." She looked fragile, her body still recovering from the procedure, slightly hunched. The woman who had always been so proud and confident was now begging, her eyes red and raw. There was a time when I would have done anything to stop her from shedding a single tear. A time when I felt her smallest pains as if they were my own. But now, looking at her, I felt nothing. No pity, no compassion. Steeling myself, I pulled a thick folder from my briefcase and threw it on the ground in front of her. Contained all the evidence I had collected, along with a detailed list of our assets. Here are the bank statements for all the money you spent on Caleb. Here is the proof of your marital infidelity. I have no problem taking this to court and making sure both of you are ruined publicly and professionally. Julia stared at the papers, her tears forgotten. After a long moment, she looked up, her voice hollow. Ethan, do you really have to be so cruel? We loved each other for 10 years. How can you do this to me? I looked at her, a humorless smile tugging at my lips. Julia, what right do you have to call me cruel? Did you think you were being kind when you were sleeping with Caleb in the apartment right next to mine? She shook her head frantically. Ethan, I swear I don't love him. I was lost, and he took advantage of me. I cut her off. Julia, I gave you chances. More than one. But you disappointed me again and again. My voice caught in my throat. The one thing you shouldn't have done. You let him live right across the hall, Julia. My vision blurred for a second. You're the one who created this mess. There's no going back. Hearing my words, the last flicker of light in Julia's eyes died out. I'll be at the courthouse at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, I said, my voice flat. I bent down, retrieved my medical file, and walked away without looking back. The next day, we signed the papers and we were officially divorced. As we walked out of the courthouse, Julia glanced at me, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something. But before a word left her mouth, her phone rang, loud and insistent. With an irritated sigh, she answered. As she listened, I watched the color drain from her face. What? How could this happen? She murmured, clearly shaken. Without saying another word to me, she rushed straight to her car and sped off. During the mandatory cooling-off period, I used my accrued vacation time and disappeared to Europe. I went skiing in Switzerland, then sat watching sunsets in Khmar. For an entire month, I turned off my phone and cut myself off from everything back home. When I finally landed back in Seattle, Leo was there waiting for me. On the drive, he filled me in. The day of our divorce, Julia had run off because her career was collapsing. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint with the state medical board, accusing her of professional misconduct and an immoral personal life. The story spread like wildfire through the hospital. With the staff openly protesting, the board suspended her license until a full investigation could be done. Leo gave me a sideways look. Ethan, that wasn't you, was it? I just smiled and changed the subject. Doesn't matter who it was. Come on, I'm buying you dinner tonight. Best steak in town. That evening, at the restaurant, I stepped out of the restroom and bumped into Caleb. He was working there as a busboy. The moment he saw me, his face twisted with rage. Ethan Cole, you've got some nerve showing your face here. You destroyed my life. You divorced Julia and left her with nothing. You dragged all her dirty laundry into the open and got her license suspended. If you had a shred of decency, you'd give her her share of the assets. I wondered if he'd been reading too many romance novels. I laughed right in his face. Feeling the pinch now that Julia's cut you off? If you're so worried about her, why don't you give her a few million to tide her over? My words struck deep. His face went red, then pale. He dropped the tray he was carrying and lunged at me. I easily sidestepped, pinning him to the floor. I let him go, assuming he'd back down. But as I turned away, he grabbed an empty wine bottle from a nearby table and swung it at my head. Ethan, look out! Leo shouted, yanking me back just in time. The bottle shattered against the wall, but a shard of glass still tore a long gash across my arm. That was it. I wasn't letting him get away with this. I called the police. Not long after, Julia showed up at the station to deal with him. Seeing her for the first time in a month, I was struck. She looked worn down, dark circles under her eyes, but she forced a smile. Ethan, you're back from your trip. I gave her a curt nod, saying nothing more. Caleb had instigated the fight and assaulted me. Neither Leo nor I were willing to drop the charges. To my surprise, Julia didn't argue. She simply posted his bail, and the two of them left quietly. At the station entrance, she called out one last time. "Caleb doesn't have any family here. That's why he called me," she said, almost like she owed me an explanation. "There's nothing between us anymore." I cut her off. "You don't need to explain anything to me, Julia." She let out a hollow laugh, just standing there, watching me. She never asked if I'd been the one who ruined her career, and I never told her. I thought that was the last time I'd ever see Julia. But on the anniversary of my mother's death, I found her waiting for me at the cemetery gates. "It's your mom's anniversary today," she said softly. "Can I go with you?" I shook my head. "No, thank you. I can do it myself, Julia." She looked at me, lips trembling, eyes red. After a long pause, she whispered, "Ethan, I am so sorry." The cool autumn wind rustled the bouquet of wild daisies I'd set down on the headstone. My mother's favorite. A sense of finality, of peace, washed over me. I smiled, a genuine smile. It's all in the past now. I walked out of the cemetery toward my car. As I reached the curb, blinding headlights flared in the distance. Instinctively, I shielded my eyes. Before I could process it, a car was speeding straight toward me. Suddenly, I was shoved with incredible force, tumbling into the soft dirt of a flower bed. I heard tires screech, followed by the sickening thud of impact. Scrambling up, I looked back, and my heart dropped. Julia lay on the asphalt, blood streaming from her head. She had pushed me out of the way. My mind went into overdrive. Hands shaking, I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911. At the hospital, I learned the driver was Caleb. After his arrest, he'd been expelled from his graduate program. He'd only gotten in because of Julia's connections, but with his assault charge and erratic behavior, the university had cut him loose. After Julia's abortion, she cut him off completely. With his academic future and benefactor gone, he directed all his rage at me. He'd found out I would be at the cemetery and planned to run me down. The only reason I was still alive was that he'd slammed on the brakes at the very last second. Julia survived, but she suffered multiple fractures. Her hands, the hands of a skilled psychologist, were permanently damaged. The day Caleb was sentenced, Julia was discharged from the hospital. I didn't involve myself in their affairs anymore. My new life was waiting. After saying goodbye to my friends, I packed my bags and booked a one-way ticket to Europe, where I would live with my aunt.